Hi, I'm Olivia. You know those moments when everything shifts and nothing will ever be the same. Mine hit at midnight on a freezing January night, with a 102-degree fever and my sister Marina screaming at me to get out of her house. Let me backtrack. I was a second-year medical resident at Metro General, working grueling hours while battling an autoimmune condition that flared at the worst times. Marina, my older sister by 5 years, had offered me a place to stay until I got back on my feet. "What are sisters for?" she'd said, wrapping me in a hug. Back then, it felt like a lifeline. Funny how a new boyfriend changes things. "You can't kick me out. I can barely stand," I said, shivering on the couch, wrapped in the blanket Mom had knitted years ago. "Kyle's moving in tomorrow," Marina snapped. Her arms were crossed, her expression icy. "We need your room." Kyle, her boyfriend of 3 whole months, leaned casually against the wall, wearing a smirk that made my stomach churn. "You've had plenty of time to find your own place," she added. "We never discussed me moving out," I protested, my head pounding and vision swimming. "I'm paying rent." "About that," she interrupted, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "The money you've been sending doesn't cover your share." It was a blatant lie. I had receipts for every payment. Thank God for my best friend Sophia's advice to document everything. Sophia, a fellow resident who'd seen enough family drama to rival a soap opera, had warned me that Marina's sudden generosity felt off. Desperate, I called our parents. Surely they'd set Marina straight. "Just pack your things and come home," Mom said, sounding distracted. "You know how Marina gets when she's made up her mind." "She's sick, Diana," Dad grumbled in the background. "Tell her to stop being dramatic and work it out with her sister." Shaking, I ended the call. Dr. Chen, my supervisor, had warned me last week that stress was delaying my recovery. "Family should be your support system," she'd said, "not your stressor." I texted Sophia, "Marina's kicking me out. Need help?" Her reply was instant, "On my way. Don't move. Document everything." So feverish and delirious, I hit record on my phone. Marina's voice rose as she hurled my medical supplies into a garbage bag, while Kyle chimed in about how I always played the sick card. They had no idea that their midnight eviction was only the beginning. Sophia's guest room became my haven. Between hospital shifts, I pieced together the truth behind Marina's lies. Those rent payments, she'd been pocketing my money while telling Kyle I was freeloading. One morning, Sophia handed me her tablet. "You need to see this," she said. Kyle had a pattern: 3 women in 2 years, each with eerily similar stories. Move in, isolate, drain their finances, then move on. "Marina won't believe this," I said, my voice hollow. "She doesn't have to," Sophia replied, scrolling through more evidence. "But your parents? They need to see who they're really siding with." Meanwhile, my parents were in full denial mode. Mom flooded the family group chat with Sunday dinner plans, pretending nothing had happened. Dad left voicemails about keeping the peace. "She's going through a rough time," Mom said when she showed up at the hospital unannounced, holding a thermos of soup. "You need to stop holding a grudge." I stared at her, incredulous. I was running a fever of 102 when she threw me out. "You're a doctor, honey. You'll land on your feet," she said, as if that excused it all. Later, Dr. Chen found me crying in the break room. She handed me a steaming cup of tea. "Family dynamics," she said, her voice soft, "are the hardest disease to treat. Sometimes the only cure is cutting out the infection before it spreads." She was right. Marina had begun spinning a web of lies, telling relatives I was unstable and prone to harassment. Our cousin Sarah called me one evening, her tone cautious. "Marina said you've been having breakdowns at work," Sarah ventured. I took a deep breath. "Actually, I've been documenting everything," I said, forwarding Sarah screenshots of my rent payments along with the midnight eviction video. I included Sophia's findings about Kyle's sketchy background and Marina's lies. The line went silent for a moment. Then Sarah spoke, her voice low. "You know she just got promoted, right? She's been telling everyone how Kyle helped her land the position." That was interesting. Kyle had claimed to be a business consultant, but Sophia's research showed his last legitimate job ended 3 years ago. Suddenly, the pieces were starting to form a picture. One Marina wouldn't want her prestigious law firm to see. "Your sister's reputation is everything to her," Sophia said later as we sifted through the evidence. Maybe it's time she learned about the consequences of throwing people away. I stared at yet another missed call from my parents. They'd chosen their side. Now it was time to choose mine. Make copies of everything, I told Sophia. We're going to need them. The push came during Marina's big moment, the annual law firm gala, where she was set to receive her promotion. Sophia's contact at the firm confirmed the story. Kyle had used his fake business connections to help Marina network her way up. Your sister's about to learn a lesson about due diligence, Sophia said, adjusting the neckline of my dress. As a client of the firm through the hospital, I had a legitimate invitation. Marina hadn't counted on that. I spotted my parents the moment I walked in. Mom went pale, and Dad suddenly found his shoes fascinating. Across the room, Marina was glowing under the spotlight, Kyle glued to her side, playing the devoted boyfriend. When she saw me, her smile vanished. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, pulling me aside. Her mask of composure was already cracking. "Supporting my sister's success," I said sweetly. "Isn't that what family does?" Kyle stepped forward, trying to puff up his chest. I turned to him, my smile razor sharp. "Actually, Kyle, I'd love to hear more about your consulting work. Especially with Bradbury Corp. Wasn't that right before they filed for bankruptcy?" His face turned an impressive shade of gray. Bradbury Corp. wasn't just a random name. It was one of his previous scams. Marina's law firm was handling the bankruptcy case. "You need to leave," Marina said, her voice shaking. "You're just jealous of my success." "Success built on what?" I shot back. "Kyle's fake references or the money you stole from me?" The managing partner chose that exact moment to approach. "Olivia, Dr. Chen speaks highly of you. I didn't realize you were Marina's sister." Marina's grip on her champagne flute tightened as I smiled at him. "Oh, I have some fascinating family stories to share," I said, pulling out my phone, including a video of Marina illegally evicting me while I was severely ill and admitting to embezzling my rent payments. "You wouldn't dare," Marina hissed. "Try me." I turned to Kyle. "And those women from Bradbury Corp send their regards. They're very interested in your consulting ventures." The next 10 minutes were pure chaos. Kyle, proving himself every bit the coward Sophia's background check suggested, tried to slip out the door. Security intercepted him. He was already wanted for questioning in the Bradbury case. Marina's meltdown was spectacular, her screams echoing through the hall as guests filmed every second on their phones. Mom's attempts to intervene only worsened the situation. "Marina's behavior is just high spirits," Mom stammered, turning to the managing partner. "Olivia's always been sensitive." "Sensitive?" A familiar voice cut through the chaos. Dr. Chen had arrived, her gaze steely. "You mean the resident who handled a triple trauma case last week while managing a chronic illness? The one your daughter endangered by throwing her out in freezing weather?" The whispers began, spreading like wildfire through the crowd. Marina's carefully constructed facade crumbled. She'd built her reputation on lies, and tonight, every one of them was coming to light. Sometimes karma doesn't wait. Sometimes it just needs a little push. Marina's carefully crafted image dissolved like sugar in the rain. Dad finally looked up from his shoes, the dawning realization in his eyes. But it was far too late for damage control. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about what you do. It's letting the truth take its moment on stage. The aftermath unfolded faster than I could have imagined. Marina's promotion disappeared, just like Kyle, who bolted the moment the police started asking questions about his role in the Bradbury Corp scandal. Her law firm, desperate to distance itself from the fallout, graciously accepted her voluntary resignation. 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital cafeteria when Sophia joined me. "I thought you'd be celebrating," she said, watching me toy with my lunch. I showed her my phone, displaying the latest text from my mom. "You've ruined Marina's life." Sophia snorted. "You didn't ruin anything. Marina did this to herself. The fact that your parents can't see that tells you everything you need to know about moving forward." She was right. Marina had been forced to sell her house, the one she partly funded with my stolen rent money. Last I heard, she'd moved back in with our parents, who were now dealing with their own social exile. Word of how they enabled Marina's behavior had spread quickly among their circle of friends. During rounds, Dr. Chen mentioned casually, "Your mother tried to corner me in the parking lot." I froze. "What did she say?" "She suggested you'd overreacted." I told her the hospital has an excellent ethics board if she'd like to formally discuss the medical neglect of a vulnerable patient. That made me smile. My chosen family had only grown stronger. Safia and I signed a lease together last week. Her spare room was now my home. My colleagues, led by Dr. Chen, became my unwavering support system. Even cousin Sarah showed up with moving boxes and takeout. "I found these in Marina's stuff," she said, handing me a stack of greeting cards. All the birthday and holiday cards you sent her over the years. She kept every card but didn't care about her actual sister, I said, tossing them into the recycling. "Marina's been calling again," Sarah admitted, "trying to get people to convince you to help her rebuild her life. She says she's changed. That Kyle manipulated her." I shook my head. Good for her. She can change on her own time. Not long after, my phone buzzed with another text from Dad. "Your mother's heartbroken. When are you going to forgive and move forward as a family?" I showed the text to Sarah and Safia. "Watch this," I said, locking both of their numbers. That evening, Dr. Chen stopped me after my shift. "Your latest labs came back," she said with a rare smile. "The stress reduction in your life is paying off. Your numbers are the best they've been in months." Funny how removing toxic people can heal you better than any medication. The law firm even sent a card last week renewing their hospital contract. They specifically requested me as their liaison. Apparently, integrity matters to them. Who knew? Marina's last attempt to contact me came in the form of a tear-stained letter filled with excuses and apologies. I didn't read past the first line. "Some people mistake forgiveness for permission to hurt you again. I'm a doctor. I took an oath to do no harm. But that also includes not allowing others to harm me. The night they threw me out into the cold taught me everything I needed to know about my family. Now I've built a new one. One rooted in respect, trust, and real love. To anyone watching who's been hurt by family, remember this. You don't owe anyone a place in your life if they show you they don't deserve it. Sometimes the family you choose is the only medicine you'll ever need. The best revenge? Living well and letting karma take care of the rest." What do you think of Olivia's journey? Would you have handled things differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more powerful stories about standing up to toxicity and reclaiming your peace. Let's keep supporting each other through the challenges of healing and rebuilding. See you in the next story.